Welcome back to Dance Studio Owner Life Coaching. I am Ginger Haithcox, and as a current dance studio owner and certified business coach, I help you build a peaceful life and a profitable business with practical tools to help you unpack not only the strategy, but the emotions that go hand in hand with this business. Today, I want to talk about procrastination. This is something that frequently comes up in conversations with my coaching clients, and I really encourage them to be curious rather than judgmental when it comes to procrastination. So, the reason why I say that is usually we use the words procrastinate to describe ourselves or others and talk about it in a negative light. And so it usually will come up in a conversation such as, I really need to order the costumes or plan next season's schedule, but I'm just a procrastinator and I need to get it together. And when you hear these things, you can hear kind of the tone, a bit of apathy, a bit of disappointment, a bit of judgment against our own selves. And I really think that this is an opportunity to get curious, to pay attention, and to understand that delaying action is not all procrastination. Sometimes it's just communicating something, and it's something that you're ignoring or not paying attention to or not listening to. So, I think it's important to talk about what procrastination is. It's that deliberate act of delaying action, even if it has negative consequences. And as I researched for this episode with Psychology Today, they talked about how people who are procrastinators, true procrastinators, they will delay action much to their detriment. It's something that becomes chronic and it's a problem. It's impacting their life. It's oftentimes tied to a fear of failure, a fear of success, even, and that sometimes they will deliberately create distractions for themselves. And it's something that is very difficult to overcome, of course, and it takes a great deal of work. And also, they recommend cognitive behavioral therapy to help people overcome this. Now, I would like to point out that if you are somebody who occasionally delays action because you're trying to think through things, or because you're just honestly tired and you need rest before you can think clearly, or you're being thoughtful about a decision, that is not the same as procrastination. And so, this is why I encourage you to be curious about this, because I think that a lot of us default to calling ourselves procrastinators when there's so much more to the picture. So, if you are procrastinating, it is not that there's something wrong with you, it's that you're getting a message. So, what we want to do is look at what is actually happening. Is it an emotional thing? Are we trying to avoid feeling a certain way? Are we trying to prevent ourselves from getting success because it means that other things will follow that success? Is it because we're delaying things because we simply feel that it's more pleasurable to watch 90 Day Fiance? When I look at this, again, pointing to some things from that Psychology Today article, they were talking about it could be a fear of doing poorly. You know, if you're a perfectionist, being a perfectionist can oftentimes impact your work and your delay in getting things done because there's this fear that you will not do it right or it will not be up to the quality that you would like it to be. It could be as simple as you just don't like doing that task. I know a studio owner who's like, I hate QuickBooks. I hate QuickBooks. And she just talks about it like, oh my goodness, this is like not the thing she wants to do. Um, but these delays could also be, the task at hand is so complex. Maybe you need input from others, maybe you need information, resources, whatever. It could be because you're distracted, and it could just be fatigue, right? So, not all delaying is procrastination. And when I want to talk about that, I want to distinguish. So, procrastination is about avoidance, and purposefully delaying something is about doing your due diligence, which is about timing or thoughtful leadership. So, a purposefully delayed task might be waiting for enrollment numbers before setting your summer staffing. It's something that's been on your to do list. You know you would like to have it done and it needs to be done, but you're being thoughtful, not procrastinating. So, you have to be careful about that distinction, because when we call ourselves a procrastinator, it lowers our self image and how we view ourselves and how we show up. When you call yourself a procrastinator, you attach all kinds of meanings to what kind of person is a procrastinator. If you're reviewing your expenses and your retention before raising tuition, that's again another example of purposeful delay. So, to give you a quick self check on whatever might be happening currently for you. When you think about something that you're currently delaying doing, are you choosing intentionally to delay, or are you avoiding something? You see, there's that key difference. Are you making a conscious decision not to go and do it now, or are you simply avoiding something? Are you avoiding sitting in that office chair and working on the thing? Are you avoiding sitting down at your laptop and focusing for 2 hours? Or is it a conscious decision that you're making? Another self check question is, do I feel calmer and clearer, or more stressed and shameful as time passes? This is such a good question. Do you feel calmer and clearer, or more stressed and shameful as time passes? That helps you to really distinguish. And then lastly, this self question of, is the delay improving the outcome? That is so good. Is the delay improving the outcome in a way that it's worth the delay? So let's just go through a few things where inaction is communicating something, where there's really something going on below the surface that is causing things to be delayed. So the first one would be a fear of failure, perfectionism that I mentioned earlier. If I can't do it perfectly, I'd rather not do it. What can you do to at least get it into its first draft? Maybe it's something where you create it, get it ready to send out, but let it kind of simmer for a little bit to be thinking about it. Sometimes that procrastination looks like overwhelm, or you're unclear of where your starting point is, and you're literally saying, I don't know where to begin. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you might remember last year I decided I'm going to write a book. And I decided this. I went into Google Docs and I wrote the title, and I had nothing else on that dang page. I didn't sit down and create a whole book in a day. I simply said, I'm going to write a book. And for me, I don't know if this works for you. For me, if I have a thought that I'm going to do something, but it's a big project that's going to take a lot of effort, in order to hold myself accountable, so to speak, I put it out into the universe and tell other people what I'm doing. I tell other people what my plan is. And it's because I know at some point someone's going to say, how's that book coming along? Right? And so for me, that's how I build in accountability to help myself. That book took months. It took months. But the thing that I did was just start. I created the Google Doc and wrote a title, and that's all that was there for months. Months. Just start somewhere. Um, those of you who know, that book did come to light. And the funny thing is, the book is not anything to do with what that original title was. The book is about studio staffing success, of course. But yeah, this is the thing. You just have to start somewhere, right? If you are avoiding something because of resentment and people pleasing, I don't want to do this, but I think I have to. Let's sit with that for a moment. Is this something you could renegotiate? Maybe you could delegate, shorten it, set a boundary in some way so that it's not the way it is, where you're just doing it to make someone else happy. And now let's look at things that maybe are misaligned, things that you're believing they're not even actually important. Like, why am I even doing this, right? Why am I even spending my time on this particular thing that I don't even see the value in it? I'm just spinning my wheels, as people say. Maybe your next move for that is decide to just drop it entirely. We were doing a program in my studio. It was the positivity month and it was every February. And quite honestly, it was a lot of work. We did a ton of different activities and affirmations and all the things. And it didn't really yield the results that we had intended. It became just an arduous chore that we had to take care of, not something that we really did well. And we actually decided one year, last year, we're just going to stop doing that. Instead, we're going to weave this positivity project into what we do every day in the classroom so that it's not dedicated and concentrated in a month of extra work. Next, I want to move on to lack of belief or uncertainty. I don't think this is going to work anyway, right? There's things where you're putting stuff together and you just think, why am I even wasting my time writing these ads? They're not going to work anyway. I'm just going to waste my money. Why am I putting all this effort into making this packet? They're not going to read it anyway, right? Your next move might be to just run an experiment, right? What if you try something a little different? What if you put in effort, but not the same that you initially had planned? What if you come at it with a different perspective? And the reason why you were thinking it wasn't going to work is because you didn't explore a different way to do it. I was talking to somebody recently about making recital packets and getting all this information to the parents and what they need. And, they're not going to read it. And it's so frustrating. And all I did was I asked the studio owner, is there anything else you could do different? Is there anything you haven't tried? What is on your mind? I ended up deciding that it was about the frequency in which they send the information. Instead of sending out a huge packet months before, that instead they were going to trickle information and give it a go that way. And so if you've been burned by people not paying attention to the resources you've created for them, perhaps that's a solution, right? Rethink the method. Rethink the method in the way that you're disseminating that information. Rethink the methodology so it's not necessarily the same thing in the same way. And then lastly, I want to talk about depletion. When you have just had inadequate rest and you can't do anything, you can't get it done. It's not that you're resisting the task, you're literally depleted. Your next move in this case is to restore yourself first and then reapproach it later. If you don't take care of yourself first, how will you be able to function to get anything done? And so it's a reminder to rest. Fatigue makes our tasks feel so much harder. It lowers our focus and our decision making. If you find yourself staring at the screen, rereading sentence after sentence after sentence, if you are feeling irritable and you find yourself doing busy work and not meaningful work, It's likely that the reason for this delay is because you're depleted. Is it possible that you could take 3 to 5 minute micro reset? Put your head down, go walk to the kitchen, make a cup of tea, go outside for some time and get some fresh air. Do you need to maybe consider an earlier bedtime or actually booking break time for yourself? And remember that rest isn't a reward for finishing, it's a requirement for starting. So I want to invite you to think about these things. What are you avoiding specifically? What feeling are you avoiding? And what would make this 30% easier? Then set a 10-minute timer, do the smallest step, and then stop on purpose and figure out what's the next thing. Just get started in those times when you feel lost. If you would like some help decoding what's underneath and creating an action plan, that's exactly what we do in my one-on-one business coaching. We will use the tools of psychology and financial coaching to get you to where you want to be. Visit my website, gingerhaithcox.com, to get started with a free 15-minute discovery call. Until next time, take care.